Carl Jung made a prediction that would prove to be one of his most disturbing insights into human civilization. Society would eventually encounter an archetype so threatening to its foundations that it would mobilize every institution, every belief system, and every psychological defense mechanism to destroy it. That archetype has arrived, and it's walking among us right now. Jung called him the lazy, ambitious man, and what he discovered about why society cannot psychologically handle this figure will shake you to your core. The reason isn't what you think, and the implications for human civilization are far more sinister than Jung himself dared to publish in his lifetime. If you're ready to discover why the entire structure of modern society is designed to eliminate this one type of person, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and comment below if you've ever felt like the world was actively working against your natural way of being. Jung's analysis began with a simple but profound observation. Every society throughout history has created elaborate systems to ensure that human energy flows in predictable, controllable patterns. From ancient civilizations to modern corporations, the goal has always been the same: harness human ambition and channel it into activities that serve the collective while preventing individuals from discovering their true power. But then came the lazy, ambitious man, and Jung realized that this archetype represents something that no society has ever been able to control or contain. The first reason society can't handle the lazy, ambitious man is that he exposes the fundamental lie upon which all social structures are built. The myth of necessary suffering. Every institution, from schools to corporations to governments, depends on people believing that achievement requires sacrifice, that success demands suffering, that progress necessitates pain. The lazy, ambitious man shatters this mythology simply by existing. He proves that extraordinary results can emerge from a life of ease, that profound achievements can arise from periods of rest, that true success comes not from grinding, but from alignment. Jung understood that when this myth crumbles, so does society's ability to exploit human energy. If people discover that they don't need to sacrifice their health, relationships, and happiness for success, why would they continue to participate in systems that demand exactly those sacrifices? The lazy, ambitious man doesn't just threaten individual beliefs about work and worth. He threatens the entire economic structure that depends on human desperation and exhaustion. But what Jung discovered next was even more disturbing. Society's inability to handle this archetype isn't just about economics or control. It's about something deeper and more primal: collective psychological identity. For thousands of years, human societies have defined themselves through struggle, through the heroic narrative of overcoming obstacles through pure effort. The lazy, ambitious man represents an entirely different story: the possibility of achieving greatness through wisdom rather than willpower, through patience rather than persistence, through alignment rather than aggression. This alternative narrative threatens what Jung called collective ego structures, the shared beliefs that hold societies together. When a significant number of people start living according to different principles, the psychological foundation of the collective begins to crack. Society literally cannot maintain its sense of identity when confronted with proof that its core assumptions about human nature and achievement might be completely wrong. Jung observed that societies respond to this threat through what he termed archetypal suppression, a collective psychological defense mechanism that operates at unconscious levels. This isn't a conspiracy planned by shadowy figures in smoke-filled rooms. It's an automatic response embedded in the collective unconscious. Society instinctively mobilizes every available resource to marginalize, pathologize, or eliminate archetypes that threaten its core programming. The lazy, ambitious man triggers this response because he embodies something that Jung called liberated consciousness, a way of being that operates independently of social conditioning. while others are driven by collective programming that tells them when to work, when to rest, when to strive, and when to accept. He operates according to his own internal wisdom. This independence isn't just personal, it's contagious. When others witness someone living authentically and successfully outside the prescribed patterns, it awakens their own suppressed desires for freedom. What makes this even more dangerous for society is that the lazy, ambitious man often achieves better results than those following conventional paths. Jung's case studies revealed individuals who built more successful businesses, created more meaningful art, developed deeper relationships, and enjoyed better health, all while refusing to participate in the cultural obsession with constant activity. Their success serves as undeniable proof that society's methods aren't just unnecessary. They're often counterproductive. Society's psychological defenses against this archetype manifest in predictable ways. First comes denial. This type of person doesn't really exist, or if he does, his success must be due to luck, privilege, or cheating. When denial fails comes pathologizing. He must be lazy, entitled, unrealistic, or suffering from some form of mental deficiency. When pathologizing fails comes demonization. He's selfish, irresponsible, a threat to social order and moral values. But Jung discovered that these defensive reactions reveal something profound about collective psychology. They're not really about the lazy, ambitious man at all. They're about society's own repressed shadow, the parts of collective human nature that have been denied and suppressed for so long that they've become unconscious. The lazy, ambitious man serves as a mirror, reflecting back all the natural human impulses that society has labeled as wrong, dangerous, or impossible. The deeper Jung dug into this phenomenon, the more he realized that society's inability to handle this archetype stems from what he called systemic codependency. Modern civilization has created a psychological ecosystem where institutions need people to be anxious, desperate, and dependent in order to function. Healthcare systems need sick people, educational systems need insecure people, economic systems need indebted people, and political systems need fearful people. The lazy, ambitious man threatens all of these dependencies because he's learned to thrive without needing what society insists he must have. Jung's analysis revealed that this archetype possesses what he termed authentic power. Power that doesn't depend on controlling or exploiting others. Power that doesn't require external validation or institutional approval. Power that emerges from alignment with natural laws rather than compliance with social rules. This kind of power is absolutely terrifying to systems built on artificial scarcity and manufactured need. What happens when someone demonstrates that it's possible to be ambitious without being anxious, successful without being stressed, productive without being frantic? Society's entire motivational framework collapses. The fear-based incentive structures that drive most human behavior suddenly appear unnecessary and even harmful. People start questioning not just how they work, but why they work. Not just what they want, but whether they actually want it. Jung observed that societies throughout history have dealt with similar archetypal threats through a process he called collective shadow projection. Unable to face the uncomfortable truths that the lazy, ambitious man represents, society projects its own fears, inadequacies, and repressions onto this figure. He becomes the scapegoat for all the ways that collective human potential has been constrained and misdirected. The lazy, ambitious man threatens what Jung identified as society's productivity, religion, the unconscious belief system that equates human worth with measurable output. This isn't just about economics. It's about existential meaning. If people don't need to prove their value through constant activity, if worth isn't earned through suffering, if meaning doesn't require grinding, then what holds society together? What motivates people to participate in collective endeavors? What justifies the massive systems of control and exploitation that define modern civilization? Jung's research revealed that the lazy, ambitious man operates according to principles that are fundamentally incompatible with mass society. He thinks in decades rather than quarters, values quality over quantity, prioritizes being over doing, chooses meaning over metrics. These aren't just personal preferences. They represent an entirely different way of organizing human consciousness and activity. But perhaps the most threatening aspect of this archetype is what Jung called his viral nature. Unlike other personality types that remain isolated in their differences, the lazy, ambitious man's way of being is inherently attractive to others. People instinctively recognize something authentic and appealing about his approach to life. They sense that he's discovered something valuable that they're missing. This creates what Jung termed archetypal contagion, the spread of new ways of being that challenge established patterns. Society's institutions have evolved elaborate mechanisms to prevent this contagion. Educational systems condition people from childhood to believe that their value depends on performance. Corporate cultures create artificial urgency and competitive pressure. Media narratives glorify suffering and struggle while mocking or ignoring examples of ease and flow. Social media platforms amplify anxiety and comparison while suppressing content that might inspire people to question their assumptions about work and success. Jung understood that these mechanisms aren't accidents or unintended consequences. They're necessary features of any system that depends on extracting maximum energy from human beings. The lazy, ambitious man represents a fundamental threat because he's learned to generate extraordinary results while maintaining his energy, his joy, his relationships, and his sense of self. He proves that extraction isn't necessary for production, that exploitation isn't required for achievement. What makes this threat even more dangerous is that the lazy, ambitious man often enjoys his life more than those following conventional paths. He experiences less stress, better health, deeper relationships, and greater satisfaction. His success comes with sustainability rather than burnout, with integration rather than compartmentalization, with wisdom rather than just information. This combination of better results and better experiences represents everything that society promises but rarely delivers. Jung's final insight into why society can't handle this archetype was perhaps his most disturbing. The lazy, ambitious man reveals that much of what we call civilization might actually be a form of collective mental illness. The frantic pace, the constant anxiety, the sacrifice of everything meaningful for abstract goals. The addiction to busyness, the fear of stillness, the inability to rest. These might not be signs of advanced society, but symptoms of mass psychological dysfunction. If Jung was right, then the lazy, ambitious man isn't an aberration or an exception. He's a reminder of what human beings could be if they weren't trapped in patterns that serve systems rather than souls. He represents not a threat to human civilization, but the possibility of a different kind of civilization altogether, one based on wisdom rather than force, on alignment rather than coercion, on the recognition that human potential flourishes best when it's allowed to express itself naturally rather than being forced into predetermined molds. And that possibility, according to Jung, is exactly what society cannot afford to acknowledge. Because once people realize that there's a better way to live, to work, to be human, the entire structure of extraction disguised as civilization would have to transform or collapse. The lazy, ambitious man isn't just living differently, he's proving that different lives are possible. And that proof, more than any revolution or rebellion, is what truly threatens the foundations of our collective existence.